Hi there. Welcome to the Imperfect Profit podcast for women who wonder. Frankly, as we go through life, I'm sure we wonder about a great deal. First as little kids, then as adolescents, then as young women, then as transitional women. What are we calling ourselves these days? And then you get to this point in life, or my point in life, when you're postmenopausal and wondering what's next. Wondering if the parade already passed you by. Join me, Wonder Wendy. I'm going to be your host as we talk about some of these unique challenges that face women today in a new millennium, going through menopause and trying to live a rich, full life. There might even be a few men and younger women that want to listen in too. That's okay. But there's a roller coaster and we're all on it. And I'm going to be your guide to help you figure out when you should close your eyes, when you should hang on, and maybe we'll explore some ideas for what works for you if it doesn't work for me, or vice versa. So join the conversation, pick up your favorite beverage, and we'll talk to you soon. Welcome to the Imperfect Profit.
When this episode drops, we are almost 2 weeks into October. There are pumpkins on porches, candy in bulk, the smell of cinnamon and nutmeg sneaking into every coffee shop. Yep, it's pumpkin spice season. Heaven for those of us that love it, and a curse for those who don't. You know who you are. Sweaters are pulled out of storage. I'm still waiting for a cool day in Arizona to actually put them on, but I'm looking at them longingly. And mornings that start cool and crisp, and evenings that beg for candlelight. Frankly, it's getting dark so early that I'm ready to put on my jammies at 7 p.m. It's crazy. And if you're anything like me, October and the approach of Halloween is an excuse to dress up, lean into a character, and have some fun. But here's the real question. Why do we wait for a particular season to try something new? Why do we save that sense of play, of permission, for one day out of the year? Welcome back to The Imperfect Profit, a podcast for women who wonder. I'm your host, Wonder Wendy. I have my beverage in hand. I hope you do too. And today, we're talking about characters, costumes, and what happens when we give ourselves permission to try something new. Because sometimes trying something on isn't about pretending. It's about discovering the real essence of you, the wonder of exploration, the delight of revealing parts of yourself even you didn't know were waiting to be seen. Now think back to being a kid. Costumes were, effortless. One day you were a princess, the next a pirate, the next a superhero. No hesitation, no self-consciousness. Each outfit opened a door to a new character, a new adventure. The furniture in the living room were islands as you bounced off to Neverland. One of your parents definitely screaming, "Jumping on the couch!" My go-to was a big box of old adult clothes. That fueled my imagination. Nothing fancy, just hand-me-downs and thrift shop finds. But to me, that box wasn't junk. It was a treasure chest, like that wardrobe that leads to Narnia. Yes, this is going to be a particularly nerdy episode. There was nothing better than slipping into an old ball gown, several sizes too big, holding them in my hands so I wouldn't trip, and waltzing around the living room with an imaginary partner, or grabbing a suit jacket, tucking my hair under a hat, and trying to talk in a man's voice. It probably wasn't very convincing. Exploring masculine and feminine aspects of myself long before society was using terms like gender identity. We didn't make a big deal about it back then. We just like a boy, we just like a girl. We had fun with it. Now, some of my friends had store-bought costumes. The shiny packaged princess dresses, the plastic masks with the elastic strings. Ugh. Oh, do you remember how awful it felt to wear those plastic masks? They were very quickly got sweaty and really stinky. Who thought that was a good idea? Anyway, sorry, I digress. My mom encouraged me to use what we had, to make something new from something old. Now, as my sewing skills improved, I began to stitch my own creations. My favorite was a pink poodle skirt, upon which I stitched blue poodle. Every seam felt like an act of independence, a declaration that I could create a world, or at least an identity, from my own imagination. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good. Now, maybe that's where reinvention started for me, with thread, a little fabric, and the belief that I could become anything I wanted to with a little bit of inspiration and imagination. The year I was a telephone operator for Thanksgiving, hello? No, Halloween. Let's not get our Halloween holidays too confused and get too far ahead. Anyway, the year I was a telephone operator for Halloween, a la Lily Tomlin. You remember Lily Tomlin being the switchboard operator? Hello, madam. Yeah, that's what I wanted to be. I had a headset, a cardigan, an all-too grown-up skirt. I loved that outfit. But at every doorbell, adults were stumped to know what I was, and I had to explain. Other kids were superheroes, and I chose to dress up as a switchboard operator. Looking back, maybe that costume was prophetic. I was already fascinated by connection, by voices, by communication, the exchange of energy between people, and discovering different identities beyond the short list that was provided in the costume shop. Maybe that was my first hint at becoming a storyteller. That's the thing about play. It teaches us who we are long before we can even explain it, maybe before we truly understand it. That box of dress-up clothes taught me that transformation wasn't limited to make-believe. It's something we can choose again and again at any age. It's not just for kids. The secret's out. Now, my quirky sense of style, while seemingly strange at the time, is now one of my superpowers. I just had to find my tribe. Honestly, I never stopped playing dress up. Now, fast forward a few decades, and not much has changed. My husband loves to tease me about this. We'll be getting ready to go to a show at ASU Gamage, and I'll be rifling through my closet, trying to find just the right thing. He'll lean in the doorway, arms crossed, watching the pile of rejected outfits grow. This isn't a costume event, right? He'll say with that grin that means he already knows the answer. And I'll say, maybe not for you, but for me, every night's a stage. Now, when we saw Mrs. Doubtfire, I reached for a ladylike wrap dress and a proper pair of kitten heels. For the Life of Pi, I pulled out an animal print. Oh, and for Moulin Rouge, you better believe I wore a red dress and a piece of costume jewelry big enough to sparkle across the theater. It's not about pretending, it's about connecting with the spirit of the show, with the mood of the evening, and with a part of myself that wants to come out and play. And that sense of fun is contagious. Some of the regulars at Gamage smile when they see me, already wondering what I'll do with a night's theme. Dressing this way creates anticipation, not just for me, but for them too. That's a small reminder to you and me that how we show up sets the tone, not just for ourselves, but for everyone we meet. Our ability to influence a situation is so much greater than most of us realize. Presence is its own kind of leadership. When we show up with intention, we give silent permission to others to do the same, to laugh, to play, to have a little fun with their night. Not just the people on stage. You can have fun too. Clothes can do that for all of us. Now think about it. Humans first started wearing clothing for very practical reasons. Protection from weather, rough terrain, curious insects. Then modesty crept in, and boy, has that definition changed more times than we can count. What was considered proper in one century could be downright scandalous in another. Scandalous dressing is not a new innovation. What often felt like daring or revealing clothing is not modern. Like I just said, fashion has been pushing boundary for centuries. In Napoleon's time, Paris was filled with a group of women known as les merveilleuses, literally the marvelous ones. Don't you want to be one of the marvelous ones? Well, maybe not when you hear what they did. They floated through salons and soirees, dressed in gowns made of whisper-thin muslin and gauze. Oh, they were inspired by the flowing styles of ancient Greece and Rome. These dresses were so sheer that people joked they were made of woven air. Like I said, maybe you don't want to be that kind of marvelous one, but don't you want to be in a group called the Marvelous Ones? Hello. So much of fashion history or historic costume, costume doesn't mean just plain dress up, is really the story of self-expression colliding with societal expectation. What's considered too much or too little isn't really about the fabric. It's about what we're willing to reveal, not just physically, but emotionally. Clothes are about so much more than modesty or rebellion. They're about identity. What we wear, our daily costume, speaks volumes before we ever open our mouths. It's about stepping into the world as the person you choose to be that day. More than fabric, it's an external representation of how you feel inside. Clothes can be armor, helping us feel safe and strong. You know that blazer you wear when you want to stand tall? The boots that make you walk like you own the room? How about that soft sweater that hugs you on a day when you'd rather disappear? Just so comfy. Sometimes clothes are theater, letting us experiment with moods, color, and energy. Sequins will tell one story. Linen tells another. The right scarf can whisper, shout, or sing. And sometimes clothes are your permission slip, an invitation to step into a new slice of ourselves we might not otherwise explore. I don't know if you've ever watched Project Runway. I have to admit, I'm a huge fan. And when Michael Kors was one of the judges, he would often say, "Who is this girl? And where is she going?" That was a question he'd put to the designers for the looks they'd put down the runway. Did they really know their client? And I've often used that line when I look in the mirror. Who's that girl? And where is she going? If I can answer that question, that outfit's going out the door. Our clothes tell a story. They set the mood. They offer clues, not just about who we are, but who we're daring to be that day. Now, when I worked in corporate, I learned that my attire could affect how well my presentation went. Like it or not, some men are easily distracted by the female form. I would like to think that after the Me Too movement, that has changed. But human instinct is a tough thing to veer in a new direction. Looking and feeling powerful make for a better presentation. It's about having the right, costume. Clothes don't just decorate us, they narrate us. Every morning, we write a little piece of our story on our sleeves, quite literally. Now, over the years, I've dabbled in costume design and what we now call cosplay, creating new looks, new characters, new worlds to play in. One of my favorite creations is Dr. Poppins. It's a Mary Poppins silhouette with nods to Doctor Who and the Time Lords. I warned you there would be a lot of nerd in this episode. Feel free to look up these answers if you don't understand them. Anyway, Dr. Poppins, people love her. I can barely walk 5 minutes without being stopped for a photo. And that's not just on the con floor. Sometimes getting to the convention center or even trying to grab a light lunch, I've had to stand up and take photos. There are so many reasons that people connect with this character. The love of Mary Poppins, of Doctor Who, or they are awed by the TARDIS silhouette on the back that lights up. It makes people feel good. They connect with me. It opens a door of connection and play. It's playful, unexpected, oddly freeing, because when I step into a character, it reveals something about me. When I am Dr. Poppins, I need to have that love for the world that Mary Poppins had. I keep my posture very stiff. I carry my bag and my umbrella just so. But I always give people the pictures. I never say no, because Mary Poppins wouldn't do that. She brings magic to the world, and I owe it to her character to carry that magic when I wear that character. Maybe that's why I love it so much. It reminds me that play isn't frivolous. It's a form of freedom. And in theater, costume designers understand that clothes are cues. They use color, texture, silhouette to help the audience instantly understand who that character on the stage is. You can do the same thing for yourself. Be your own costume designer. Every morning, ask, who do I want to be today? And what would she or he wear? That's why I love October. Not just for the candy corn. Yes, I like candy corn, okay? I like pumpkin spice. I like candy corn. I like dressing up. If that is not your cup of tea, find a different cup of tea. Anyway, and the costumes, because it gives us permission. October whispers. Go ahead, play, experiment, try something new. And then it dares us to carry that spirit into the other 11 months of the year. I know. Did you see what I did there? One of my dear friends always wore black and gray. Her wardrobe was kind of an armor, safe, neutral, predictable. But one day, we convinced her to try a pastel scarf. Just one accessory, nothing radical. And something magical happened. Her whole face seemed to soften. The color brought out her skin tone. Her eyes brightened. And then she noticed people were reacting differently to her. The next time she had a headshot taken, she was wearing that pastel scarf because it made her seem more approachable. It made her seem more open. That same armor that was protecting her was keeping people out. It wasn't a full makeover, just a simple tweak, but it gave her permission to see herself in color again. And that's the beauty of transformation. It doesn't have to be dramatic to be powerful. Sometimes transformation starts with a single thread, one new texture, one small risk, one brave choice to be seen differently. Maybe for you, it's a lipstick you've never tried. How about a jacket with flair? A hairstyle that shows your face in a new way. Or maybe it's not about clothes at all. Maybe it's about a role. If you're always quiet in the meeting, practice raising your hand and talking a little bit. If you're always raising your hand and talking, try hanging back and see what happens. Maybe you can become a student again and sign up for that class. Boy, that's a new rule if you haven't done it in a long time. Say yes to the trip, the hobby, the date, the chance. Halloween isn't the only night we get to try on courage. Just a few weeks ago, it was the first Wednesday of October. And I posted a picture of my Wednesday Addams outfit, from the Addams Family. It was a black dress with a crisp white Peter Pan collar. My hair was in braids, fingerless gloves, clunky Converse heels, a little spooky, a little fabulous. And just for fun, I added a sacred heart brooch. Because no matter what role we try on, no matter what character we play with, we need to put a little of our heart into it. Reinvention doesn't mean erasing yourself. It means expanding yourself, letting more of who you are step into the light. It doesn't have to be a heart pin. Maybe for you, it's a superhero logo, an American flag, or a rainbow. Whatever it is, that small symbol reminds you and the world what anchors you. Remember Madeleine Albright and her pins? She always wore big pins. She once said her brooches became her personal diplomacy, her way of sending a message without saying a word. Our accessories can speak for us too. By the way, I do need to offer a quick warning. Not everyone will be comfortable when you change. Some people might say, "Ooh, you look so different," instead of, "You look amazing." Don't let that stop you. Smile, thank them for noticing, and move on. Their discomfort doesn't have to be your burden at all. Change unsettles people who've grown comfortable with your predictability. But you're not here to make everyone comfortable. You're here to make yourself whole. And I invite you to do just that. Oh, another warning. There is that meme. You've probably seen it on Instagram, or maybe it's just my Instagram, but it comes up every so often. There's a picture of a woman, and it says, "They say dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Now I'm sitting in HR wearing a Wonder Woman costume." Okay. Maybe skip the full Wonder Woman armor from Monday morning. But what about Wonder Woman earrings? Or a lapel pin? A little nod that says, "I'm channeling courage today." Sometimes that little nod to who you are becoming is all it takes to bring that identity a little bit closer. This is what I mean when I talk about the bucket list life. It's not just about the big trips or someday milestones. It's about living fully right now by daring to try on the versions of ourselves that light us up. That could look like skydiving. Okay, I haven't done that yet, but if somebody invited me, I'd probably say yes. Sometimes it looks like starting a business. Sometimes it's saying yes when we usually say no. Sometimes it's as simple as braids, gloves, that'll look sharp enough to make Wednesday Addams proud. Every character you try on, every slice of yourself you allow to come out and play, adds richness to your story. A friend once asked me, "Do you ever run out of ideas for reinvention?" And I laughed because reinvention isn't a finite resource. It's renewable and fueled by curiosity. The more you let yourself play, the more ideas appear, the more courage you gather, the more wonder unfolds. Shakespeare said it best: "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players." If you are on stage, why not be in the right costume for today's scene? So as Halloween approaches, let me ask you, what character inside you is waiting to step forward? What small thing could you try on? A look, a word, a practice that lets you play with a different slice of yourself? And what's your heart brooch, the thing that stays constant no matter what role you're in? Just last week, I wore a dress that evoked J-Lo's infamous Versace gown, though my cleavage was nowhere near as daring as hers. But it was that same sort of blue-green color palette, bright and flowy and scarf-like, and it did have some cleavage to it. When I arrived at the gala, I realized that my outfit was not in line with the crowd that mostly wore conservative dark-colored dresses with a touch of sparkle. Whoa, I had to choose confidence over feeling out of place. And then as I was standing near the bar, I heard a woman say to me, "You look like a mermaid, so beautiful." Suddenly I realized that I had chosen my outfit well. Maybe because it matched the season, or maybe because it matched a version of me that was ready to be seen. Isn't it amazing how just one kind word can turn self-consciousness into self-acceptance? Life isn't about shrinking into one role. It's about expanding into every character you dare to play. We never outgrow the urge to play dress up. We just forget how freeing it can be. I'm Wonder Wendy, and don't forget to stay hydrated. Until next week, live a life full of wonder, a wonderful life. And hey, share this episode with a friend who could use a little reminder that transformation can be as simple as trying something new on, whether it's a personality, stepping into a new role, or wearing a scarf. The leaves may fall, but we don't have to fade. Try something new this October. Maybe a color, a dream, or a version of you that's been waiting patiently for her cue. Step into the light. It's your scene now. And if you're feeling a little nervous about it, know that I'm standing here applauding for you. You got this. Until next week.
Like what you heard here today? Then we should be friends. I suggest you join my Facebook group. It's a good way to connect. We can have a conversation, ask me questions, whatever you want to do. It is called the Wonderful Bucket List Life. That's Wonder-Full Bucket List Life. Be a bucket lister and join me on this adventure. Or you can go to my webpage, which is Wonder Wendy and Friends, join the mailing list, learn about the book I wrote, adventures that are coming up in the future, and other podcasts. I look forward to talking to you soon, and stay hydrated. Have a great day.